You ready to record? Everything good to go? Make sure someone's. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the first meeting of 2025 for the San Jacinto Regional Flood Planning Group. This morning, it's 9 a.m. on January 9th. I want to welcome those both in person in attendance and those online today. So we're officially called to order. Again, thank you for all the service you're about to provide for our voting membership in 2025. And with that, I will have our plan sponsor do roll call. Present.
Leah Benson.
Present.
William Birdie. Augustus Cabell. Matthew Barrett. Elisa Masai Donovan.
Present.
Connie Patier. Paul Locke. Nadia Rifat. Leader on mute. Tina Peterson.
Present.
Todd Burr.
Present.
Brian Maxwell.
Co-source here for Brian Maxwell.
Christina Quintero.
Present.
And Imelda Diaz.
Present.
We have 4.
And
This
again,
is
I
Augie
think
Campbell in here.
Thank you.
I saw Anani on, but I didn't hear her say anything.
Present.
Thank you. Great. We'll then move on to item number 3. Registered public comments on agenda items, limited 3 minutes per person. Do we have any formal public comments issued? None. I see none from the room. We'll move on to item number 4. And I guess on the roll call, Timothy, one thing you may want to do is go ahead before we go to item number 4, do a roll call for non-voting members.
Right. Hope Zubek. Michelle Ellis. Kristen Lambert.
Present.
Joel Clark. Nicholas Collins. Melinda Johnson. Justin Bauer.
Present. Good morning.
Ellie Alcori. Tom Hike. Michael Turco.
Present.
Brandon Wade. Sally Bacco.
Present. Good morning.
Good morning. Lisa Mayers. Liv Hasselbeck. Mark Vogler. Are there any non-voting members on the call whose name wasn't called? No present from the non-voting members.
Thank you, Tim. All right, officially with item number 4, Texas Water Development Board update. But I didn't hear the name.
Nick is having issues, logging in.
All right. If he'll advise when he's on board, we'll break and cover that item. Item number 5, approval of meeting minutes. Meeting minutes should have been provided in your packet. Hopefully everyone had an opportunity to review them and look for clarity of content, grammatical errors, anything. Do I have any comments? Go ahead.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. This is Sally. Sorry about my camera not working, but I did attend the meeting. However, my sound wasn't working, so that may be why I wasn't registered as being in attendance, but I just wanted to make that note.
We'll get that noted. Thank you, Sally.
Thank you.
From any other of the voting membership, have any comments or corrections? Hearing none, I'd look for a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
So moved, Leah Vincent. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes of November 14th. Any other comments, discussion? Hearing none, I indicate your approval by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Not a lot of ayes for all the people we have. So for those of you who are in attendance, voting membership, indicate by saying aye and make sure you have your camera on when you do that. I'll ask for the ayes once more.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Nays? Abstain? Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Liaison item number 6 will be liaison reports pertaining to other regions, progress, and status of related entities. Todd, since you're on, have you heard anything recent from the Trinity?
No, sir. They kind of have been like us, just kind of floated through the holidays and getting started back up. I'll have a report for you at the next meeting.
Thank you. No, we don't really have a Natchez region rep, and Liv was not on today. I didn't hear Vogler with Lower Brazos. Mike Turco, how's Region H doing?
Well, I think Region H is doing great.
I'll fall through there.
Yeah. Seriously, Region H is continuing their process. They're at the end, or at this probably the last lap of their next planning cycle, and a very busy year coming up for them. Their next meeting is in February, and that concludes my report.
All right, thanks, Mike. Sally, since you have audio today, would you mind giving us an update on the Gulf Coast Protection District?
I have audio and I got my camera working. So, I mean, yay. Real quick, with the Gulf Coast Protection District, as you may recall, we had $500,000 included in the FY 2024 U.S. Army Corps of Engineers work plan to address breakwaters along the Bolivar Peninsula and the Intracoastal Waterway West Bay area. This is meant to address erosion. This is particularly important for the project as a whole because we are placing a lot of emphasis to get final specs and designs in place, because once we can get that in place, we will be able to be far more competitive to getting a new construction start that would apply to the project as a whole, which would allow us to be competitive where the real money exists with the Corps' budget. In the meantime, we have sent an amendment to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers that will allow the Corps to accept accelerated funding. This would allow us to spend the state funds not only on what we call the G28 project, but also on other aspects of the project, which would include the beaches and dune system, as well as preliminary engineering design work on the larger gate system. Headquarters is reviewing that right now, so we're anxiously awaiting their final approval on that. In the meantime, GCPT took a real loss. Nicole Sundstrom, our executive director, from inception of the organization, in fact, even before that, she had been a staff person for former State Senator Larry Taylor and then transitioned to the executive director role, really got GCPD up and running. She left us at the end of last year. The board quickly moved into action to start soliciting applications. Our compensation committee just yesterday made a recommendation to the board, and the board has empowered the board president to hire an executive director as well as a senior technical director. So we're very excited about that and plan to move forward quickly with that so that we can start engaging the new administration as well as the Texas legislature. We have submitted some appropriation requests to the Texas legislature, so we want to be up and running as quickly as possible. So I will have more to report at the next meeting.
Thank you, Sally. And I wanted to just check, is Paul Locke on the call?
I'm here, Tim.
Good. I want to make sure I saw you. I just want to make sure we got it in the roll that you were in attendance.
Thank you. I got on a couple minutes late. Thank you for checking.
No worries. We know Centerpoint's busy right now.
That would be accurate.
All righty, we will move on to item number 7 on the agenda. Update from the San Jacinto Regional Flood Planning Group Technical Consultant on the 2028 planning cycle schedule and upcoming technical tasks.
Would y'all prefer I sit here or get closer to the speaker? Anticipating.
Closer to the speaker.
Do you have a clicker or anything that I could use so I don't have to keep flagging it? If not, maybe I'll just. I've also got this from my notes. Would that work? Oh, okay. Like if there's, oh, you don't have a USB out, then that's what you're saying. Got it. Okay. All right. Well, we'll work together on it. This is what's on the website. What's posted to the website. Maybe we can take a minute to download those real quickly. If you want to stop sharing your screen. I think there may be a difference in the meeting materials we've got posted here or shown here and what's posted on the website. So we might take a minute to download the latest from the website and make sure we've got those up.
While we let the technical consultant get set, I'll cover, really want to cover latitude by the chair. So one thing I want to apologize for, I failed to include in the agenda was the election of the chair, the vice chair of the Regional Flood Planning Group. So if no one's against that, since it is an item that would be in action, it really needs to be posted. So we will probably push that as a future agenda item for our next meeting. And then the other latitude I'll take is not that it's an action item, but we do have some members who have not conformed to the requirements of membership. And it's in the bylaws, and my vice chair is quickly flipping to the page. But there are some requirements dictating attendance. And since we've always been hybrid, attendance is pretty, I would say, fairly easy to do. And I would like just thoughts and concepts for voting members who have not been in attendance physically. I could do some outreach to them to determine if they want to continue to serve. And if they do not want to continue to serve, I'm going to ask them to advise us of that. You want to read the Vice Chair, would you like to kind of quote the requirements?
Sure, I can speak to the attendance standard that's in the bylaws, and that is that voting members of the RFPG that have recorded absences from 3 consecutive meetings, or at least 1/2 of the sum of all meetings in the preceding 12 months, shall be considered to have engaged in excessive absenteeism and shall be subject to removal. Of course, there's some additional detail around that, but I think it's probably a good time of year to refresh everyone's expectations on kind of what the bylaws expect in terms of attendance. And we do all have alternates, and so if you are unable to come, please do arrange to have your alternate come for you.
But what I would state that I don't feel that having your alternate attend in your stead the whole time meets the intent. So what we'll do is I'll have this plan sponsor give me a role for the last 18 months, look through there, and if anyone has been absent where they personally have not, the member that was appointed has not been there, or a member that was appointed through a vacancy from this group, I'll just reach out to confirm their willingness to continue to serve. And if not, perhaps then we could I think we'd have to go through a vacancy announcement, but I just think it's appropriate as we go into the new planning cycle that we have engagement with the voting members that we have elected or have been appointed by the state. Are you close, Maggie?
Yes.
All right, I'll go back to item number 7, technical consultant update.
All right, so can everybody see that technical consultant update screen?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, so we'll go ahead and jump right in. I'm Maggie Puckett with Reese and Nichols. I think this will be our first official technical consultant update of being officially under contract. So today we're going to walk through an update on the effort to amend the 2023 regional flood plan. We'll provide a high-level overview of the 2028 flood planning cycle, including technical tasks, our technical consultant team, and the schedule that we'll have to accomplish those technical tasks. And then we'll jump into some initial discussion and introduction of those first tasks we'll be working on, including task 1, the public survey, and discussion on selection criteria to select FMEs that the regional flood planning group will perform this cycle. So as a reminder, this upcoming amendment to the regional flood plan is the last opportunity for sponsors to become eligible for the next round of FIF funding. As we discussed at the October Regional Flood Planning Group meeting, in order for a sponsor's study or project to be eligible for funding assistance through the state, through the FIF, their study or project needs to be recommended within the regional flood plan. So at the October Regional Flood Planning Group meeting, this group decided to take advantage of that amendment opportunity and authorized our team to begin working on that amendment and advertising this amendment opportunity to sponsors, including a flyer that documented 2 key interim deadlines for sponsors. The first of which was a November 15th deadline to submit notice of intents, or sponsors plan to participate in this amendment. And so we received 165 FMEs, FMSs, and FMPs from 14 sponsors. Having that initial early deadline gave us the opportunity to coordinate one-on-one with each of these sponsors, answer any outstanding questions, and make sure they understood the data requirements for inclusion in the regional flood plan. Since then, we've received either total or partial data for 101 of those FMEs, FMSs, and FMPs. So we're looking at a really hefty amendment come March. But we're still awaiting, obviously, a significant amount of data. So as a reminder to folks, the deadline for receipt of all necessary data in order to process this amendment is January 15th. So if you're working with any sponsors or communities that are interested in participating in the amendment and have submitted their NOIs, doesn't hurt to provide them a reminder. This week, we did go ahead and send out email reminders to all of those sponsors to make sure they were aware that January 15th deadline is coming up and to provide them with guidance on how to submit that data. I guess as a quick note, if you want to go back to that amendment slide, Jonathan. Something I did want to emphasize is that although this amendment is an opportunity to add new FMEs, FMSs, and FMPs, you'll notice kind of a discrepancy here in our FMEs received, that there are fewer notice of intents and more FMEs we receive data for. And that's because sponsors are also using this as an opportunity to refine FMEs that were already recommended. Now that they've got more information on how they'd like to phase those studies or those projects and have experience from submitting FIF applications this past year.
Right. But my understanding, the amendment allows a sponsor to give data to help elevate an existing project through its scoring, or move it from an FMS to an FMP actually, and then new projects. So
That's right.
It's a big slug of data that will refine the list of Region 6.
Right.
Thank you, Maggie. Anything else?
On the amendment? No, I don't think so. I think the only other thing I'll say is thank you to those regional flood planning group members who directly reached out to their constituents. We did get, Grimes County participate in this amendment where previously they had not participated in the regional flood planning cycle. So this is still a great opportunity to continue to reach out to folks and engage them one-on-one and encourage them to participate.
I think one of the last things I was going to ask with regard to this, so from a timeline standpoint, their deadline's the middle of January, and then as we're looking at meetings, then March is an appropriate time for our next meeting. Are we going to have to approve something in March?
Yes, and you're jumping the gun here, Tim. We've got a nice schedule to lay out all of the actions.
I'll let you get there. I'll let you get there. So.
We'll go ahead and walk through the whole update. So if you want to scroll back up, Jonathan, to that 2028 flood planning cycle, or our team. Next thing I'd like to provide a brief overview on is kind of high level introduction of 2028 flood planning cycle. We've been talking about the amendment, which is kind of backward looking. We're looking at amending the previous plan. Now I want to talk about what we're actually looking forward to doing this next cycle. So our team this next cycle will be comprised of Freesa Nichols as the prime consultant. I'll be serving as the PM this cycle. Corey will be serving as our principal in charge, and we'll also have Brian Edmondson and Tanner Hellweg serving on our leadership team. We'll also be supported by Hafen Associates and Torres and Associates, who will support technical tasks throughout this cycle. And Holloway Environmental Communications will be serving as our communications and outreach lead. The Stewart Consulting Group will be supporting funding. So it should be a lot of familiar faces. We supported this group last cycle, and so we're in a great position to be able to enhance and build on the foundation laid last cycle.
So, Mr. Chair, if I could just say, so for those who are part of this team who maybe we haven't met, you weren't here last time, would you just come up and introduce yourselves after so we can all know who you are and make sure that we put the right name to the right face?
And we're in the process of, we're under contract. Once we receive our PO, we'll be able to get our subs under contract as well, and you'll be seeing them at future meetings as we walk through technical tasks. All right, so here's the bulk, what we're actually going to do this cycle. There's a lot of information on this slide, so I'm not going to read through all of it, but what we've included here is a list of the technical tasks that this group accomplished in the first cycle, a list of technical tasks for the second cycle and how those compare, how those differ, and then some notes on those key changes. For the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and kind of focus on those key changes from the first cycle. So task 1, our planning area description, which will focus on key statistics and unique characteristics of this region. There are some minor changes with regards to the GIS deliverables and the inventory of infrastructure and stormwater assets that we'll make as part of task 1. The Water Development Board has invested in flood research projects like the infrastructure toolkit that we'll be able to leverage this cycle in order to better define attributes of all of that infrastructure. In tasks 2A and 2B, where we define existing and future flood risk, including who and what is exposed to that risk. Last cycle, there was a focus on the 100-year and 500-year event. This cycle will analyze those as well, but will also include a more frequent event, the 10-year event. The Water Development Board this cycle has also updated the sequencing of technical tasks in response to feedback from regional flood planning groups and technical consultants to hopefully better have prior tasks inform production on subsequent tasks. So if y'all recall last cycle, I know the regional flood planning group struggled a bit to define kind of quantitative thresholds for goals and knowing what would be reasonable without having performed the needs analysis yet. So that shift in the sequencing of tasks should hopefully support goals. Tasks 4A through 6B are really the meat of the plan. It's where the studies and flood mitigation projects to address the risk that was identified previously are defined. There are 2 new tasks. There is a task 4C where the Regional Flood Planning Group has been allocated budget to perform FMEs in order to identify and elevate those to FMPs this cycle. The Regional Flood Planning Group has also been allocated budget to define a prioritized list of FMEs to send to the Water Development Board for them to perform. And so that's the state contracting their own consultants and deciding, what FMEs they feel is appropriate for the state to perform. It's very similar to.
I'm in a meeting. I have to call you back.
Task 4C, where the group will perform FMEs, is very similar to Task 12 from last cycle, where the group was given additional budget and time to perform FMEs in order to increase the number of FMPs that were recommended in the plan. And then finally, the last new task is Task 11, where the group will be charged with comparing the progress made this second cycle back to the plan, the first plan. So in order to understand progress towards goals, progress towards mitigating the existing and future flood risk that's been defined, they've got a whole separate task and area to document that.
So does that mean, these 10 projects were granted funding and how those projects have progressed? So you're trying to see what the benefit has been of the first. What's going to be the quantifying change, or is it just through refinement of the information?
Yeah, so we actually just recently, the Water Development Board published technical guidance, providing kind of a roadmap and guardrails for how to perform each of these technical tasks. So I will admit, we're still looking into it. It was just posted over the holidays. But I believe the intent is to document progress towards implementing the plan. And so whether that's, documenting how many projects received FIF funding and have moved from recommended to in progress, I'm sure that's something we'll want to
And if
document.
you have something that actually got complete 3 years.
Yeah, how that might have changed
Yeah.
the overall risk across the region.
Maggie. Hi, it's Nick. Sorry to interrupt. I would like, if y'all can, take a second to stop and check the bylaws about the meeting notice. The meeting notice online, the link is not working. Maybe take a look at the bylaws and see if y'all are in regulation, and then deliberate. If y'all are, y'all can proceed. If not, then we need to reschedule this meeting.
Pulling it up right now.
Is it working? Yeah. All right. Yes. So I just accessed
Specifically,
from our website.
you can access it through the meeting link in the PDF.
Don't know the PDF, but I'm on the sanjacintofloodplanning.org website.
Yeah, and that's our website.
I see maybe this is what Nick was talking about. When I was able to download the meeting notice on the website, but then the meeting link within that PDF was not working. Let's see.
Are we able to access it from some portion of the website, though? Sounds like we are.
Absolutely.
There's not a link here.
All right, so the language in the bylaws related to open meetings is in accordance with TWDB rules, which exceed, by the way, the details of the regular Open Meetings Act. It states that copies of all materials presented or discussed shall be made available for public inspection prior to and following any meeting of the Region 6 San Jacinto RFPG. And so, you're saying that we are able to access that from
I'm able to access the meeting agenda and meeting materials from the web.
Yeah. So, Nick, it appears to us that we are able to access that from, at least the way Tina's getting at it, from the website.
Sounds good.
Hi, this is Sally. I was wondering if I could ask a quick question on task 4A and the new changes, notes that you have here. You mentioned you're removing the BCR from this task. Can you explain that a little more?
Yes, yeah. So that note is while the BCR has been removed from an FMP, the ability for an FMP to be identified under Task 4A and documented in the interim deliverable, that technical memorandum, it has not been removed as a requirement for an FMP to be ultimately recommended in the regional flood plan. So effectively that requirement was pushed to a latter task, which may allow sponsors or the regional flood planning group time to develop that BCR and get the FMP identified and recommended in the plan.
I see. Thank you.
You can get to everything from the website.
Yeah.
You just can't get to it from the link on the agenda.
Right. But there's a link next to the agenda that says meeting materials that's working. So, so just for the team that has that agenda posted, next time let's make sure that link's also working. So that's
do a test. Maggie, did you cover everything? So I didn't hear the answer on BCR. Apologize.
The BCR is still a requirement for an FMP to be recommended in the plan, but it's no longer recommended for an FMP to be identified under Task 4A and documented in the interim deliverable, that technical memorandum. So it's just been delayed, which could give sponsors additional time to develop that BCR.
All right, thank you. Do you have anything else?
On that slide, no. All right, so we talked through technical tasks and some of those differences from the first cycle. What are our deliverables? So in particular, the deliverables will be this first amendment to the 2023 Regional Flood Plan due to the Water Development Board April 1st, an interim deliverable, the technical memorandum due September of 2025, which serves as kind of an interim milestone, a check on progress to the Water Development Board. Following approval of that deliverable, the group will receive NTP to proceed with subsequent tasks. The group will also provide a prioritized list of FMEs for the Water Development Board to perform January of 2026. And then finally, the draft 2028 Regional Flood Plan is due February of 2027, followed by the final Regional Flood Plan.
So the 2026 January is a list of FMEs we would like Texas Water Development Board to expand.
Yes. Yes. So if y'all will notice, we look where we are today, beginning of 2025, when the draft plan and the bulk of the effort on this project is due. That's about 24 months to complete the entirety of those technical tasks that we listed in the prior slide. So the major takeaway, I think, for the Regional Flood Planning Group here is that there will be a lot to do and a lot to accomplish and a lot of opportunity to provide feedback on this plan in the next 2 years.
So I want to make sure. So the first plan was a 2023 date.
Mm-hmm.
The second plan will be a 2028 date.
Yes.
We spent all of 24 trying to get here.
Right.
So now we're down to 4 years, but the bulk is basically between now and February 27.
That's correct.
When your contract expired?
I don't
December
recall.
28? You'll find out for me?
I will, yeah.
So I'm going to add an agenda item in 2027. I don't want to lose a year next time.
Yeah. I think
If I'm still being one providing guidance.
Well, since my term goes till 28, I would say next time, let's plan that the year ahead of the conclusion of the 5-year cycle.
yeah, I think there's been a lot of, we've been thinking that this next cycle, we'd have the full 5 years. It wouldn't be the abridged cycle that it was
Looks like
in the
we're
first cycle.
Q3.
But
So as we look at our scheduling, I will assume that y'all will come up with a recommendation for the meetings for 2024, provide that to myself and the plan sponsor.
if you would scroll down, Jonathan.
Oh, I know.
You're reading it.
Tim, you're reading our minds. Yeah, so given that we are where we are, we've got 24 months to accomplish this next cycle. We've got more budget, more technical tasks. We're performing FMEs. And at this point, we're looking at a schedule that's somewhat shorter than the first cycle. We've requested a schedule extension for interim milestones, and this is something we coordinated with you, Tim, ahead of the holidays, but wanted to make the rest of the Regional Flood Planning Group aware that we have requested interim deliverables, the tech memo, the submission of the list of FMEs to the Water Development Board, and the draft Regional Flood Plan be pushed back approximately 3 months, which is approximately the delay in receipt of technical guidance based on the conceptual schedule that's posted on the Water Development Board website. So that's the justification there. But we are waiting to hear back on this schedule extension request. Nick, I know you joined. I don't know if there's any other insight you'd like to provide, but I know there's been holidays, people moving out. I think other regions have submitted similar requests, and so I'm sure the Water Development Board is having to consider implications of delaying those interim milestones, not just on administrative things like contracting, if there need to be contract amendments issued to reflect those new dates, or also implications on their team and the time available to review the draft regional flood plan.
Yeah, no, nothing to update as of now. It's still being routed and approved. But yes, from what I am hearing, if we were to do any kind of amendment to the timeline, we would need to do an entire new contract. Well, not a new contract, but amend the current contract.
Right. So while that's not something that should delay or hold up our ability to continue work and making progress on the 2028 flood plan, it is need to coordinate with the county, since that's some additional administrative tasks. All right, and as you wished, Tim, we've got a layout of schedule for future meeting dates and content through 2025. So assuming the group continues to meet kind of every other month through 2025, we've gone ahead and laid out our schedule, anticipated agenda items, and actions that the group will need to take throughout 2025. And so I can walk through each of those.
This is posted.
Okay.
We should have availability to it, but I'd ask the plan sponsor, take this page and send it out to all the voting membership members and indicate this is our tentative schedule for 2025, and that will follow into phone call or email that I construct for you to send out.
And Maggie, I would just say, I think this meeting calendar that you've put forth, plus the previous slide that shows the overall schedule, those are really good. If we could have those in every single one of these presentations you do, I think it will keep us focused.
Awesome. Yeah.
And the good news is that we have once before done a plan in a very short period, so we can do this.
And that was all when it was brand new. Now it's not brand new, so.
Well, thank you.
Good primer to the future discussion on standing up the committees, which are going to have to work it out.
That's right. That is not the committee schedule.
Right.
You have anything else you want to?
I don't think so. I think the main takeaways are that we're really aiming to get through kind of tasks 1 through 4 by the end of this year.
Thank you. I'd like to move on to the next agenda item. Jonathan? Let's leave that agenda item will be agenda item number 8.
We did have a few additional.
You want to show us more slides right now?
Yeah, we did have some additional slides. I think Jonathan's trying to get back to where we left off.
All right, sorry.
Tim.
Just to intro.
Sorry, Maggie. Tim, do you mind if I jump in real quick? This is Matt.
Hey, Matt. We're going to add you to those in attendance.
Well, and speaking to what Nick was mentioning earlier, not to go back, I raised my hand earlier. I should have just jumped in. I think what Nick was getting at is, and I had this issue, I don't think the public can join this meeting because the link doesn't work. Does that create an issue for us or no?
All right, Matt, can you be more specific? So what he was talking about, at least I understood it, was that the materials link wasn't working, but
like I didn't have an invite, so I went to the website where the agenda is posted because I knew there's a link to get into the meeting there, which the public, I think that's what they use. But that link does not work. So unless there's another link on the website somewhere they can access the meeting, if the only link is in the agenda, which is the agenda is posted, that is correct, but the link within the agenda does not work. So I don't know if the public can join the meeting.
Public could still join in person. I don't think that creates a too big of a hurdle, but I'll let Leah read the bylaws.
Yeah. Well, Augie, I'll say one of the things that is a challenge in this, and I'm not this RFPG's attorney, but one of the things I will say is that because the TWDB rules are not in perfect alignment with the Open Meetings Act, there are additional rules in the TWDB that go kind of extra. So let's see. And one thing I would say, I mean, I'm just looking, this is Article 9, meetings in our bylaws, Section 1. All meetings of the Region 6 San Jacinto RFPG shall be posted and open to the public for the Texas Open Meetings Act and is set forth in the TWDB rules. It is certainly the case having a hybrid, as we have come to do, is not a requirement. It's only and be in full compliance, and as I understand, some of the RFPGs do only meet in person. It's just courtesy that we developed into, both with respect to who make also for members of the public, so people can read join. But I agree with Augie that anyone can come here in person. It is not ideal that these links are not working on the agenda. disappointed in that. And so while I believe that we are in legal compliance here, I think that I kind of maybe like to have a sidebar with the chair about our steps forward here in the next few minutes. You want to step out?
Yeah. Thanks for that.
Excuse me.
One of the things last year, one of the things because they document, I asked for the link to put it. There's something. I don't know. It used to be.
Right.
So now I just. Because I really think the answer to this issue is that link right there. And I don't know where it went.
Are you ready? Hey, Matt, since I see that since you were unable to offer comments on the minutes, you thought you would offer comments on a larger scale.
That's right.
Greatly appreciate it. And I went to the link and couldn't get in, so I will assume that the individuals that would be on items 8 and 9 are not with us today. I did not see them on the call, which were the two individuals we spoke about previously who have applied for the municipality's position. You may remember we created a small municipalities position in our last meeting, and the executive committee did have an opportunity to meet. And today we were prepared to make a recommendation for placing members in these two positions. However, I feel it's a technical challenge with them not being able to participate. Then how can they engage on the follow-up pre-critical items, which would be discussion about the executive committee or in bear with me a second. Let me just confirm it for him. With that discussion started, I want to confirm that Paresh Ladd, Jolado Arias are on the call today. Paresh, are you there?
This is Paresh. I'm present.
Jill?
Good morning. I'm present as well. This is Hill Arias.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thanks for bringing that to my attention. And so then to follow up with Matt's question and concern, and then of course looking through our bylaws, since the hybrid meeting is not a requirement for the regional flood planning group to meet, but having a public meeting with a public location and an agenda posted per the requirements of our bylaw, those two items are both accomplished. A, the agenda is available. B, we have a public forum, place where public can meet and be present at this meeting. And meeting both those requirements, I feel we're in conformance with the Texas Open Meetings Act and the requirements from the Texas Water Development. And since the two individuals that item 8 and 9 we would discuss with are present, I'm comfortable moving forward if I have no objection from any of the other voting members. All right. Hearing none, we'll then move forward to item 8 and 9. I would like to go through those together, if no objection from my fellow board members. And kind of want to go ahead and cover this, Maggie, if that's okay. I want to have everyone on board. I'd like to get that covered, and I may come back to you when we talk about key meeting dates and milestones. So we'd like you to move on to item 8 and 9. Jonathan. Number 8 reads as Executive Committee's decision for vacant municipalities board position, and I'm going to let you scroll to item 9. Item 9 reads Executive Committee's decision for the vacant small municipalities board position, and I would like to hold these together, and then would look for a motion. So, as I was speaking previously, we did go through a series of exercises in 2024 to try to create and fill the municipalities. We found the need and felt there was a strong representation to create the small municipalities. We created that, held vacancy announcements, and allowed the two previous submitters to leave their submission in play. And as such, the executive committee met, reviewed that, and the executive committee's recommendation to the voting membership is that Paresh Ladd is the recommendation for filling the municipalities position, and Jill Arias is from the city of Friendswood, and Paresh is from the city of Houston, city of Friendswood, to fill the small municipalities position. And we appreciate these two individuals being as eager to serve as they have been. They both came to interviews in 2024 and met with the executive committee, and they have both continued to show interest and desire to serve. And with that, I will allow my executive vice chair to talk about.
Sure. So first, just a bit of housekeeping. So while on this PowerPoint it is displayed as item 8 and item 9 on the posted agenda, it's item 8 is covering both of these together. And the way it's framed on item 8, is that what you're saying? Because look at what's on the website and what I printed out. We're having extreme technical challenges today, so let's just pull this up. What I have in the posted agenda, and let's just continue screen. Okay, so yes, it's a combined item number 8. You're taking action under, and we can do that together in a single motion if that would be to the chair's liking. And so now putting back on my executive committee hat for a moment and to talk about substance. So the members will recall that we really went through a lot of dialogue at the last meeting about this category of municipalities, which is a state mandated category, and really felt that was inadequate to also represent the interests of the small municipalities. Remember, there was a lot of discussion about, well, how small and what's the right number of population, et cetera. And we ended up coming to a conclusion as a group last time that we would, in fact, create a small municipalities position in addition to the municipalities. We did so. We reissued this sort of inquiry to see who was interested, and we have two folks, as the chair mentioned, who were interested before, who are still interested, and who the executive recommends. And so when it's time, I'm happy to make a motion to nominate Paresh Ladd to serve in the municipalities role and Hill Arias as the small municipalities role. Paresh with the City of Houston, Hill with the City of Brunswick, and it was unanimous support for their appointment.
I'll open it up to the voting membership for questions, comments, or a second.
So Tim, I would second, and I would just say that I think we have two candidates who are very strong to represent both of those categories. And they have both been through multiple steps in this process. So I do believe that they will be good representatives for both the municipalities as well as the small municipalities category.
Thank you, Tina. That was a motion and a second. I'll offer any other dialogue or comments from the voting membership prior to calling for a vote. Hearing none, all those in favor of the nomination for municipalities for a Ladd from the City of Houston, all municipalities, JLRS. Aye.
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 All right. Any abstain? Any nays? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you. Paresh, you're on the call. I wanted to formally thank you first for your continuous, and I would advise you that you have filled the municipality's position, which is the position, as you may be aware, our terms for voting membership are 5-year terms. And in 2024, due to the fact we were all appointed at the same time to go as well as terms overlap between various members, we pulled straws. At that point in time, you either got a 2-year or 5-year term. And the municipalities was on a 2-year term, so where your term expires in July. But the good news is, I bet you we'd be real happy for you to continue to serve after July, when in July we will also be going through solidifying term renewals. So if you have anything you'd like to say, Paresh, the floor is yours. Thank you again for participating. And I will, before you go, I will also tell you we look forward to you designating an alternate, attending your online Public Information Act training that the plan sponsor will send you the link. So Paresh, welcome.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate the voting, and I look forward to representing the large municipalities for the team.
Jill, correct me if I'm pronouncing, I know you and I've talked before, but that's how I think you like to be called instead of Gilardo. Welcome. We're in it for the long haul, and you are on the 5-year rotation starting in 2023, so you get to go all the way to the municipalities. Again, welcome. Thank you for your eagerness. And you also and the floor is yours, Jill.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Phil Arias. I'm the city engineer and director of engineering for the city of Friendswood. I'm honored to serve as a voting member here for the small municipalities board position. Here at the city, I've worked on a variety of infrastructure projects, as well as some flood mitigation projects here in the very recent past. So I'm really passionate about finding practical and sustainable solutions for the challenges that our region has, and I'm looking forward to collaborating with all of you as we represent our region with this important work here in the coming future. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Look forward to your continued participation. Now, I'm going to use the posted agenda. And item number 9 on the posted agenda, Maggie, see, you're going to work out great. Says an update from the technical consultant on 2028 planning cycle. Schedule and upcoming technical tasks, which you've covered a vast majority of that, but I'll give you the floor again to cover any other items before we move on to item number 10.
All right. You want to scroll, if that's what everybody can see, you can scroll to where it says task 1 in public surveys, maybe 2 more slides up. Yeah, so we can start right here. All right, so where we left off was kind of a list of anticipated agenda items over the course of this next year, but what our team will begin working on kind of over the next couple of months, in addition to focusing on the amendment to the 2023 Regional Flood Plan, is task 1, the planning area description. So included in that task is documentation of key statistics and unique characteristics of the region, which we will update from the 2023 plan. Some of that information we've got by the numbers on the slide. But as I mentioned previously, a lot of the focus of this next cycle will be to not just understand where stormwater assets are located, but also improve our understanding of the condition and functionality of those assets and of that infrastructure. So information on task 1 and that data collected in the last cycle can be found both on the San Jacinto Flood Planning website, in the Regional Flood Plan, but also in our story map that's on the home page of the website, as well as the State Flood Plan viewer. So I wasn't sure if this group was aware that the Water Development Board, taken some cues from regional flood planning groups across the state who developed interactive dashboards and story maps, did a similar thing and made the underlying data that was collected and used to develop the state flood plan visible and accessible to the public. And so that link is provided in the materials posted on the website. When you scroll down to public survey, also included in task 1 is a charge to develop a public survey. And so we'll use that to capture new data and updated information from the last cycle. We're hoping to be able to launch that sooner rather than later to help facilitate outreach to sponsors and the public. We'll be able to apply lessons learned from last cycle. We've already got a list of public survey questions developed, and compare that with additional resources that we've got, including web mapping, our website story map, and the state flood plan viewer. As a refresher for regional flood planning group members and new members, as of this meeting, last cycle, this group elected to develop a public survey that incorporated web mapping that was coupled with a data upload option that was also differentiated between stakeholders and representatives of communities who have a technical background, who would have a longer list of questions, and the public, who would have a much more narrow focus list of relevant questions, and then also offered a Spanish language option. And so this is probably something, and hopefully a good primer as we talk about standing up subcommittees, and something that the outreach subcommittee may be able to provide feedback on. So the next item that the group will be able to jump into over the next few months is the process to select FMEs to perform as part of the 2028 flood planning cycle. And so to kick off that discussion as of this meeting, wanted to talk through some initial assumptions on what that strategy could be. And so this is very conversational and collaborative. As folks have questions, please feel free to chime in. But the intent of debuting it at this meeting is to make everyone aware, hopefully maybe agree on some of these initial assumptions, get some initial feedback, and then we can take that into discussion with a future technical committee or at the March Regional Flood Planning Group meeting. So first assumption that I think we'd want to make is that there is a universe of FMEs that we can consider. And what we've assumed that would be comprised of are the FMEs that were recommended in the last cycle, of which we had 405. We've got plenty of FMEs that were already identified, and the FMEs that are being identified in this latest amendment, minus any other FMEs that have already received funding, the sponsor has already moved forward, or would not result in FMPs that are more targeted at floodplain mapping, for example. So there's not, in our mind, there's not necessarily a need to wait until we identify new FMEs this cycle or reach out to sponsors again in order to maximize our available schedule. An additional assumption or consideration is related to selection criteria. So if y'all recall last cycle, this group, in order to inform the work done under task 12 and the FMEs that would be performed last cycle, this group developed a slate of criteria, a ranking criteria, so that it was objective and transparent how this group was selecting FMEs to perform. That was ahead of the state publishing their own ranking criteria. So this time around, the group will have an opportunity to consider both the state flood plan ranking criteria as well as the unique priorities of this regional flood planning group. I know the regional flood planning group had comments and feedback on that state flood plan ranking, not all of which were addressed. So this is an opportunity for this group to select or utilize criteria that better aligns with the priorities of this group. Not to say we want to throw out or not consider the state flood plan ranking criteria.
It's going to be to rank those that we're going to spend state money on.
Sure, and it's something we want to consider as we identify FMPs that we want to be more competitive statewide. To that note, it's probably an assumption that the FMEs that are highest priority for this regional flood planning group, we would want to perform as the technical consultant, dependent on scope, schedule, and budget. And lesser priority FMEs would be routed to the Water Development Board because it's not clear currently whether those would be completed in time to get incorporated into this cycle or if they would be deferred to a subsequent cycle. The Water Development Board has also stated in technical guidance that their aim will be to prioritize FMEs that benefit underserved communities, so those smaller communities that may not have technical staff, that are rural or lacking funding. So that will be the considerations driving the FMEs the state will take it upon themselves to complete. And then finally, there's probably two categories of FMEs the group will end up considering, and those are FMEs that we're going to do from scratch. We'll have to define existing conditions and then work through alternatives analysis and identify projects. Or there might be those FMEs that are already projects, but might need some additional refinement or just a couple additional data in order to elevate it to an FMP. That would be much less budget and schedule associated with those. So in total, there's a lot of different tracks that FMEs can advance to FMPs this cycle. The technical consultant can perform them. The Water Development Board could perform them. The sponsor could perform them, or they could be accomplished through other funding or other ongoing study initiatives, of which there are many that overlap with the San Jacinto region, or it could be deferred for a future opportunity in future FIF funding cycle. And so we've developed a kind of rough process, high-level process for selecting, going through and selecting those FMEs. This is something that we'll continue to bring up with the group and potentially future technical committee to receive input on. But in the meantime, we'll be continuing to work on the amendment. We'll finalize what those additional FMEs will be and define what that FME universe will be, and then start to work through that selection process.
Thank you. Any comments, questions from the voting membership on item number 9?
Tim, I had a couple questions, maybe clarifications. So just so I'm clear, this process that we are talking through is the intent to get additional FMPs? Is that really the intent?
Yes.
Okay, agreed. So obviously there's limited funding for us to do this work, and there's limited funding for the Water Development Board, which is where we're getting into this prioritization effort. So I think I heard this, and I just want to clarify. So we will develop our own prioritization process. Obviously can use the state's priority rankings as an input, but not necessarily the only input. And then we also will be able to make recommendations to the Water Development Board for what FMEs for them to consider.
Yes.
Okay. So I think that's all my questions.
And all of that by July, right?
I think for our schedule,
Or September.
we'd hope to be able to make a selection potentially by May in order to maximize on the schedule available for our teams to perform these FMEs, because we'll need to perform those FMEs or scope schedule, develop proposals to execute those FMEs, perform them, and then incorporate them into the plan, have those approved by the Regional Flood Planning Group, develop the Regional Flood Plan, have that approved by the Regional Flood Planning Group, and then submit to the Water Development Board.
Yesterday. Any other question or comments? I think this is a great segue into the next agenda item, which is discussion item number 10, discussion and possible action for the nominations for chairs of the San Jacinto Regional Flood Planning Group working subcommittees. So we have 2 committees that we have stood up in the past. One was a public engagement committee and one was a technical committee. The public engagement committee was led by Todd Burr and spent a lot of time trying to help coordinate the number of public outreach sessions we had, which were some completely in person, others were hybrid. Also working with the technical consultant on email information to do the surveys, do the viewer. And what I feel that while the technical consultant has spent some time right now rattling the bushes, rattling the tree to get information for the amendment process, we really need to be looking beyond the amendment process and looking into kicking off plan sponsors. Hey, you have a timeline to get some FMEs elevated. You're not going to be one we're looking at. You may need to look at it. And also, again, it's a general solicitation of stuff. Hey, we're doing a new amendment. Do you want to play in the sandbox? So I think based on Maggie's desire to move quickly, all of this would be something that would be happening predominantly in 2025, because we're midway through 2026. We're not going to be able to very effectively get us where we need to be by 2027. So I think as we talk about the public engagement committee, that committee is going to see some exercise in 2025 and early part of 2026 predominantly. I would assume, Maggie, that in 26, when we're getting close to the draft plan, we may want to do some more public engagement just to make sure people are looking at it, but it's going to be more of telling the story, not seeking much new information. So I think you're looking at 18 months from a public engagement committee having some tasks really being heavy loaded on the front. Then we had the technical committee, which was led by Elise Donovan. And that committee will also be front-loaded, I believe, and if we look at our schedule of supporting the exercise Maggie just talked about prioritization of FMEs, usually this subcommittee would be the committee doing the heavy lifting, working with the technical consultant to help develop both how we would rank, taking their input, then working with them to come up with this list of folk that we want to bring forward to the voting membership for the technical consultant to pursue, and the ones we want to push out to Texas Water Development. Would that kind of be the emphasis of the technical committee at first?
Yes, I think that'll be one of the, I think that'll be one of the main topics, including.
And then following that push, which would be now, would be later in the year working on, as things are coming together, about what tasks they're pursuing along various tasks of the workload. And as we go into 2026, would be looking at the new projects that are coming on board, and then talking about how we rank those, and really repeating what the technical committee supported in the first cycle. That technical committee will probably also expand, but probably closer to still meeting in early 2027 as we're getting ready to have our draft. A little bit longer, perhaps. So I did have an opportunity to speak with both previous chair. Well, I did get a chance to speak with Todd. I didn't get a chance to speak with you, Lisa. And we did mention in a previous meeting of those interested to serve in those committees. And there have been a few members that said, yeah, I'd be willing to serve. But what is actually needed is a chair and a vice chair for each one of those groups. I will advise these meetings that these subcommittees will have are public meetings follow the Public Information Act requirements. So these are actually formal meetings. They have an agenda, has to be posted. Luckily, the technical consultant leads a lot of that, helping put that together. But the vice chair and chair lead that meeting, help drive to desired outcomes that our technical consultant needs, because we drive that, not the consultant. And then would be walking away from those meetings with guidance to a technical consultant to bring forward to the membership for action. And for both of those groups, that's the plan. And those groups would tend to meet during the windows between our normal voting group membership meetings, but may meet more than once over a 2-month period. I mean, they may meet every month for a couple of months. So those meetings are very important to our success in accomplishing not only the goals for the work that'll be happening regarding MFMEs, but the just successful completion of our plan overall. So I would like to open to the floor as I seek some volunteers to serve as the chair of these two committees. And that's why I thought it was very important to have the opportunity to let our new members be on board, be involved in conversation, to serve on the technical committee. We love to have some folks that have a diverse view, both technical, that are truly technical, actually engaged in the profession of doing drainage projects, and those who are not, because we really need that diversity in the technical committee. In the public engagement committee, I would always say it's for those with a passion to engage the public and solve drainage problems, would be those I would hope would be willing to serve on that committee, that have a public communications background, that just have a desire to, do the best they can for their neighbor. And with that, I'm happy to let Lisa and Todd talk about the previously two committees that they chaired. I talked to Todd, and Todd said if someone has a passion, he is sure welcome for them to show that passion and lead. And Lisa, I didn't get to contact you in the early enough to have a good conversation with you. So I will let Lisa speak since she's on, Lisa Donovan. If you'd like to talk a little bit about the work of that committee and your thoughts.
Sure, thank you. So first I have a question, and I know Lee is not our lawyer, but it is a bylaw question, because I recall the last time we did this, we appointed people to the technical committee, and then the committee itself elected their chair at their first meeting. So I'm just curious if this is a change in process, if we did it wrong last time, or if this is the correct process to name the chair first. I just raised that question because I know it's a little different. And I will say, for the technical committee, it was a good sort of peek into the process. There's a lot of support from the technical consultant, but there certainly is the ability, as you mentioned, to guide interest, to take into account public input and try to, shape some of the decisions before they're presented to the board. So it is, I think it's a really worthwhile committee. It can definitely get into the weeds, and the meetings, some of them, especially in the early part, were longer as everyone was coming up to speed and just trying to get their head around what was being presented. I do think it's a really valuable committee. I'm happy to continue to serve on the technical committee. I think I had a different perspective than some of the other people, and we did benefit from having a diversity of interests and perspectives represented on the committee. I don't feel strongly about needing to be the chair. I'm happy to serve however is helpful to the group.
In response to your comment, Alicia, it is correct that the official voting of the chairs would be at that first meeting of the subcommittee, where a chair or secretary is elected. So we won't have a formal action here. What I hope to outcome from this discussion, and appreciate what you just said, is more recognition of those who'd be willing to serve on each committee, so that we can get that documented, so that the plan sponsor can coordinate a meeting with those individuals, so that the first action at that meeting would be establishment of the chair, vice chair, and secretary. So they got to have at least 4 volunteers, because those 3 have to lead somebody, right? So clearly you would like to serve, Alicia. I think I had an opportunity to talk with Connie, who said she would be very happy to serve on a committee. I think, Connie, you had mentioned me, your interest was in the public committee, right? Connie may not think she's on. While she's waiting there, I'm going to go through the people that from the conversations we just had, the phone calls I've had. Alicia said she's in the technical committee. I believe Imelda Diaz is on. You advised you'd be willing to serve on the technical committee. Was that correct, Imelda?
That is correct. I would like to serve on the technical committee and even the public engagement. Either one would be good.
On the technical side?
Yes.
This is Connie. I'm happy to, sorry, I had my mic off. I'm happy to serve on the public committee.
And I believe, Todd, my conversations with you, and would like you, if you wouldn't mind real quick, Todd, to tell us your story about the Public Engagement Committee, and if you'd like to continue to serve on that committee.
Sure. I'm happy to continue to serve on the committee. And if somebody is got a burning desire to be chair, I will support them in any way possible. If not, I'm happy to continue to serve as the chair, which I know we're not deciding right now. But the Public Outreach Committee is a committee that when we are busy, we are busy. They are meetings that we have with the public, and they are open meetings, as Tim said. And we field lots of questions and provide access to information. So it's a great group of folks. It was this last time, and anybody that wants to join, love to have you on board.
I'm not going to put people on the spot, but I will open the floor to the voting membership. I will remind our executive committee, who is always eager to serve, we can have no more than 2 executive committee members on any subcommittee so that we do not create a quorum. And if both of those members will be serving, then I would also ask that a executive committee not joined by public to participate. So an executive committee member can join any meeting in a public setting, but if you're on there with 2 others, we would violate that. So once the committee's membership is identified, that'll be circulated so then we can have a dialogue. If you always have a question, you can contact me. So I'll open the floor again to the voting membership for those who would have interest and formally announce their interest in serving on the technical or the public engagement committee.
This is Bob Kozar. I would like to serve on the technical committee.
This is Imelda Diaz. I would like to serve in the technical committee.
Got you, Imelda. Got you, Bob.
Bill Arias, I'm happy to serve on the technical committee.
Thank you, Jill.
Mary Goldberg also.
Gotcha.
Hi, Tim. This is Augie. I'm happy to serve on either committee. I guess my preference would be public.
Thank you, Augie.
Good morning. This is Hanadi. I'm happy to serve on the technical committee.
I'm sorry, who's
Hanari. Okay. Technical. And Augie on the public.
Thank you, Hanadi. Is there anyone else interested in serving on the public engagement committee?
Christina here. I'm interested.
Thank you, Christina.
And Mr. Chair, this is Aaliyah. Maybe one thought I had is that if the staff could send out the list of the people who formally served and the people who have indicated today that they would like to serve, and then at our next meeting we can do the process set out in Article 12 where we've previously established the committees. We could go through the process of appointment of the members to those committees by consensus. And then, of course, those committees will stand up and they will actually determine their own chair, vice chair, and secretary, as Elisa did describe. And we do have some folks who aren't here today, so maybe that would give them the chance to raise their hand if they would like to serve.
So we'll do, I really appreciate the dialogue and interest, so we'll do I'll work with the plan sponsor to get an email out. Because of the significance of standing up the committees, we will go ahead. I'm going to recommend that we'll have a very abbreviated February meeting on the 13th, I believe, that morning, to stand up the committees and approve membership of committees so that they could meet subsequent to February 13th to have a formal meeting. But I think by doing so, this plan sponsor can work on setting up the meeting from a preliminary scheduling with those showing interest that say perhaps if you wanted to have a meeting on the week of February 16th, the meeting committees would be stood up already and we'd be able to do that. And I think you need to probably have a conference call as a work with the chair and the sponsor next week. Any other deliberations or comments regarding item number 10? All right. We're going to move on to item number 11. Presentation 2025 Planning Group Key Dates and Deadlines. We had a very positive summary that was presented by Maggie that the sponsor will be distributing in a standalone email. I'm changing the next planning group date will actually be, I believe, February 13th is a Thursday, so February 13th at 9 a.m. It will be short, but you're Your presence is greatly appreciated. Conster will hold the date email out today, and then the agenda will be formalized, reviewed, and then we'll make sure we have that out in advance. We'll be here at the United Ways. All right, item number 12. Items for the next agenda for that meeting. And since we're meeting in February 14th, there'll probably be, besides the standing up of committees, we will also need to have the election of officers for the planning group. I apologize, I failed to catch that and have that added to our first meeting. And at that meeting on February, the voting membership will choose a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary. We'll then turn around and choose an executive committee membership. The executive committee is made up of the chair, vice chair, secretary, and 2 at large. So the 2 at large would be the ones we'd be trying to select. And then the next agenda item would be the public engagement and the technical committee. I don't believe it's necessary to have a water development board briefing, technical consultant briefing. I think it'll be an essence of time so that we'll focus on these key items. And we will need to approve the minutes of this meeting. We'll go over that agenda. So unless someone else has an item they feel needs to be on the agenda, you can always email me, and I promise I'll check. Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 13. Item 13, I think.
Hey, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Todd.
This is Todd. I just wanted to remind everybody, March 13th is right in the middle of spring break for a lot of schools and families. So we might want to look at that date and make sure that we're going to have a quorum for sure on that date, because there'll be a lot of people that will be probably out of town on that date.
And Todd, this is Aaliyah. I think if you are going to be out, do check with your alternates. I know I'm going to be out, and so my alternate's ready to go. But we do need to make sure we have a quorum on that date.
And I will mention that about half of the voting membership does not have an identified alternate. I believe voting membership was sent out very recently to all members. So please, if you do not have an alternate listed, get that posted back. Member alternates do have to take the Public Information Act training as well. And we'll give some thought to how we want to manage the March 13th meeting based on some feedback we can get.
So I believe we're on item 13 now. Is that correct, Mr.
That's
Chair?
correct.
So the language here on the agenda is rather long. So I don't know if staff or the Water Development Board can give us any information about this requirement for this solicitation. This feels fairly prescripted.
Can jump in.
You're very welcome to jump in.
So this second cycle, the Regional Public Planning Group is required to perform 2 pre-planning public meetings to receive input per the language included on the agenda. I know other regions across the state have incorporated as part of their regular RFPG meetings, given that those are all public meetings and publicly noticed. Given that the WebEx link did not work today, this might be something for the RFPG to consider deferring to the next Regional Flood Planning Group meeting to collect input.
We'll make sure this is on the next agenda as well. Thank you. Move on to item number 14. Public comments. If any public are there and have a comment, please raise your hand. Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 15. Adjournment. 10:34 a.m. on January 9th. I want to greatly appreciate everyone's participation and patience as we solved a few items. I look forward to seeing you all in February. Very safe afternoon. Thank you for your participation in the Regional Flood Planning Group. Thank you for those online. Have a great day. We're adjourned.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.